Alleluia, Alleluia, Alleluia. The Lord sent me to bring glad tidings to the poor, and to proclaim liberty to the captives.
The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. I'm reading from the St. John's Bible today to emphasize our special respect for the Scriptures, which we celebrate today. Since many have undertaken to set down an orderly account of the events that have been fulfilled among us, just as they were handed on to us by those who from the beginning were eyewitnesses and servants of the Word, I too decided, after investigating everything carefully from the very first, to write an orderly account for you, most excellent Theophilus, so that you may know the truth concerning the things about which you have been instructed. Then Jesus, filled with the power of the Spirit, returned to Galilee, and a report about him spread through all the surrounding country. He began to teach in their synagogues and was praised by everyone. When he came to Nazareth, where he had been brought up, he went to the synagogue on the Sabbath day, as was his custom. He stood up to read, and the scroll of the prophet Isaiah was given to him. He unrolled the scroll and found the place where it was written, "The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favor." And he rolled up the scroll, gave it back to the attendant, and sat down. The eyes of all in the synagogue were fixed on him. Then he began to say to them, "Today, this scripture has been fulfilled in your hearing." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
If our three speakers in today's readings would be in this church today, that is, Ezra, first reading, St. Paul, second reading, and Jesus in the Gospel, I wonder what they would tell us based on these readings today. Ezra might very well tell us to celebrate the presence of God, which we can find evidence for way back in our history. When I was 3 or 4, my parents gave me a record player. It was a child's record player, but a good one. It had a tube that had to warm up before I got sound through the speaker. And it played 78 RPM records. They had given me these little yellow records, like Mary Had a Little Lamb, Jack and Jill Went Up the Hill, and many others. Well, my Aunt Valere had a console record player and many 78 RPM records, which I liked much better. And I borrowed them from her. She let me take them home and play them on my little record player. Soon I was singing, "Just give me the moon over Brooklyn when the long, long day is done," a 4-year-old. And cruising down the river on a Sunday afternoon, and seems like old times having you to walk with. So anyway, that was 4 years old for me, Bobby as I was called then. And my parents said that everything changed in my life when I got that record player. I was no longer getting into all kinds of mischief and messing up the house. I was always playing records. So I was on my way to becoming the real Bob. Ezra might tell us to rejoice in the fact that God's presence can be seen in all of our pasts, in the accomplishments of our monastery, the successes of our schools, in the love of our families, in the gift of life that we have been given. No matter how imperfect might be our past lives when we reflect, we can find behind us and ahead of us the presence of the divine, of God. In the scripture, the first reading today, Ezra was addressing a people who had returned after a long and difficult exile. And he tells them, in spite of your hardships, God was there. God is in our failures and accomplishments. And we can celebrate the fact that God is leading us through ups and downs to become our real selves, our real communities, and our genuine families. St. Paul would be positive about life as well. He would tell us, celebrate the gift of Jesus in your communities, workplaces, and families. Paul says, don't lament the fact that there are people who think and act differently than we do. Last week, I had just returned from some time away from St. John's, and I was playing the organ, Monday night, evening prayer. I couldn't get over how beautiful we sound singing even these simple sound tones. This community with our guests. Just things like, out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord, Lord, hear my prayer. The distance between the community and the organ console, combined with the fantastic singing acoustics of this structure, not to mention the support of our outstanding pipe organ, created an amazing blend. If one would get up close, we would hear that some people rush a bit, some people are too slow, some people sing sharp, some people sing flat, but that together, with all these differences, we create an absolutely beautiful sound. St. Paul might say, you are not just part of a body of people, you are part of Christ himself. And through your efforts to work, sing, and love one another with all your flaws, all your out-of-tune singing, you are becoming a part of a greater community of people which will bring the will of God into full operation in the world. We are praying for unity among the churches this week. What better way to achieve unity than to be grateful for God's presence through thick and thin, through terrible times and wonderful times. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, "It really boils down to this, that all life is interrelated. We are all caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly. We're made to live together because of the interrelated structure of reality." That's Dr. Martin Luther King. Jesus shapes us into the body which St. Paul tells us about, a community which is not judgmental but helpful and loving, which is not negative and accusatory but supportive and encouraging. We can let this divine presence, which has been with us all the time and is found in the rather mysterious ties that binds us together, change us into a people of belief, of reconciliation, of support, and of true love for all members of Christ's